This show is sponsored by the ComX shop.
Welcome to Tuesday Chinwag with your host, Leigh Chalker, writer, artist, and creator of the comic series Battle for Bustle.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday Chinwag. My name is Leigh Chalker, as the intro says, and writer, creator of the Australian independent comic book Battle for Bustle, published through ComX. New issue right here is dropped in the ComX shop. The ComX shop is the sponsor of tonight's show. I would also like to congratulate and let know Stuart Thornton, who has dropped his first comic book, issues 1 and 2, titled Outlaw. That is also available as of right now in the ComX shop. So congratulations, Stu. Proud of you, mate, and good job on that. So if you go and buy Battle for Bustle, if you go and buy Outlaw, if you go and buy any comic in the ComX shop for a limited time, you will receive free Volume 1, the digital copies. I will just highlight the digital copies of Battle for Bustle, issues 1 through 4. So you'll get that free, so you can read and catch up with that, and helps promote everyone else out there and ComX. So for everyone that hasn't seen a Tuesday Chinwag before, where who, what, where, when, why, and how, we're very fluid. We like to have a yarn with creators in a long form sort of interview. And the best thing you can do for the show and the channel is to like and subscribe it anywhere you can find it. So that's comx.net.au. Now, tonight's guest is someone I've wanted to talk to for quite some time. She
I don't know why.
Creator. No, it's not, because I read that an awful long time ago, and I think that's one of the great books. I've had the pleasure of meeting Chris Pitcairn an awful lot of times, and he's a cool dude. And we just haven't crossed paths, you and I, yet. So tonight's guest is NS Kane. We will call her Nicole Kane for this evening, so not to confuse anyone. But Nicole, how are you?
Good. It's pretty cold down here in Sydney, but I've got my warm cup of tea, so I'm all good.
Oh, that's very good.
Nice.
No fireplace, anything like that, you know?
Oh my God, I wish I had a fireplace, but
Yeah.
all I have is a cat, so that'll.
Oh.
And he's skin and bones, so he doesn't even keep me warm. He's fails at being a cat.
Yeah. You need to feed him more, mate. You just get to the end of summer and stuff, and just double up that food, mate, so he gets nice and round for winter.
Yeah, he's a little skinny mini, unfortunately. So
yeah, right, okay. I like cats. I've got a couple myself, so it's good. It's good, very, very nice. So, mate, let's, without further ado, I am going to get straight into the first question, which is probably the only question that we'll talk to, because everything else will just veer off, because I do like fluidity and everything. Mm-hmm. Anything can happen in this show, whether it's, as we discussed before, kids saying goodnight, cats attacking people, dogs jumping up and down, birds flying across the room. It all happens here, Nicole. So let's see what happens this evening. Stay on your toes, man. All right, rock on. And who?
So I am Nicole Kane, as NS Kane ComX. So the NS comes from my actual real name, which is Nicole Strojek, and the Kane is actually a two-parter. So Kane actually comes from an homage to Bob Kane, who wrote Batman, and also the reason why I got into comics. So I was a nationally ranked cosplayer for a very, very long time. Loved doing it. But unfortunately, the community was extremely toxic when I was cosplaying, so I left. But I still wanted to cosplay, so I thought, okay, well, I need to find something a little bit different, something that was not in my wheelhouse. I did a lot of anime, I did a lot of Japanese-inspired cosplaying, so I thought, okay, well, let's go left field, and started to just put into search engines black and red and see what came up. And of course, Batwoman came up, and I looked at her bio, and first thing that was on there was lesbian, and I was like, okay, you got me. I don't even need to read the rest. I'm just there for this. Funny enough, started reading about her character, started reading her story, absolutely loved it. went to King's Comics the very next day, bought everything I could find that was Batwoman involved, and blasted through it. And I have loved her ever since. So that's when I found Greg Rucka's scripts in the back of one of the volumes.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, that's interesting. Like, it was cool to see how it was done. And I thought, I can do this. Like, this is something that I can actually physically do, especially since coming off of like writing novels when I was younger and stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I thought, great, this is definitely something that I'm into. Started researching scripts, started looking at other writers, how things were done, and then it just snowballed from there. Like, I just started writing little 10-page ash cans, and I haven't looked back since. So, yeah, that's where the name actually comes from. And a lot of people look at me weirdly when they see the name, and they're like, but that's not your name. And I'm like, yeah, I know. When Hellcourt got put into King's Comics for the first time, I actually took my mom into the city, and I was so proud. And I didn't tell her that it was in King's Comics. And I walked into the store, like, she thought I was just browsing, going to buy something or whatever. And I said, come over here, come over here. And I pointed to the shelf, and I said, that's mine. Like, that's my book. And it took her a minute, and she was sort of like, what? Like, what do you mean? And then when we got home, she actually rang me afterwards, and she said, oh, I'm so sorry. I was so dazed with what you said. I didn't realize that that was your book up there. And I said, yeah, it was my book. It was mine. It's mine. I've written it. It's in stores. Like, it's an actual thing. And then in the background, I hear my dad go, why is my name not on the book? I'm like, really? That's what you're going to say to me? Like, it was the best moment of that. But he was proud.
Yeah,
But he's like, why is my name not on the book? It should be Strojek. And I'm just like, okay, yeah. Thanks, guys. So, yeah, if had names for the win, absolutely. It took my parents a while to get used to it, but now they are. Like, I think everybody in my family has sort of jumped on the bandwagon now, which is great. It's only taken a few years, but I think everyone's like, okay, you're doing this for real now. It's not going anywhere. So, which is nice.
No, it is, man. It's beautiful. It's lovely to. The funny part is just ducking back when you said, like, and I had to. Good evening, Mr. Challoner, Shionche. Hello, absent-minded. Hello, Nick May. Thank you, mate. We will do our best. Thank you for everyone that's watching, and we'll try and keep you posted. When you said that you were like a champion cosplayer, and you said I had to pull out, I was thinking, oh my God, did you give yourself an injury or something?
No.
I was like, really like, oh, how did someone get injured? But then, toxicity, I mean, that's enough to drive you nuts, mate. It's,
I think the only thing I really did was burn myself and inhale too much resin. Like, it was more work than it was anything else. But I loved it when I did it, and I appreciate a lot of cosplayers now, like the effort. I know behind the scenes what effort they go into to make costumes, and it's not easy. It's time consuming, it's money consuming, and I really do still appreciate them. I've got some friends who are really great cosplayers, and I'm always in awe of what they can do now, especially since things have changed with 3D printers and things like that now.
Man, I was going to say 3D printers would make it easy, wouldn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can go and belt out an Iron Man, like suit, like in half a day. It's like you don't have to think for 6 months. I mean, listen to me, thinking like I'm an old cosplay hand, mate. Like, I've got no idea. I just appreciate.
I had to sculpt everything out of clay and then hand mold it, and like. What was
go on with that. Tell it, like, I don't know anything about cosplaying, so like.
Oh, look, it was crazy. It was crazy. Like,
hit me.
Well, it depends on what you're making. Like, I made like different various things and random bits and pieces, but like some pieces you couldn't find anything for them, so you had to sculpt them from hand, and then you had to cast them in like a silicone and then in a resin, and then that would shatter like 5 different times before you got it right because you mixed the chemicals the wrong way. Like, you have to be a freaking scientist. And I was, by the end of it, I was just like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? But I think the one thing that I really loved is I've still got the photos from the photo shoots. I think that was sort of like the main thing that really made me happy, was getting the photos at the end of it. I've still got some pieces left that I'll never get rid of, which is like my Batwoman mask. Like, I'll never get rid of that. So that's her mask. Like,
That's cool.
yeah, like some things like that, they'll stay with me. But, you know, the rest of it was massive. And I was just like, I can't put this anywhere. I have no room. I have a tiny, tiny apartment now. And now it is filled with books. So it's like going from one giant hobby to another. I've got, like, the room is filled with packing things and books now. That's what happens when you run a Kickstarter.
Yeah. I've never run a Kickstarter, but I've been involved in them. I've seen the work that goes into them. I can imagine when it's right in the crux of it, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of cardboard envelopes, boxes, you know, acid-free
there's
floating
so
around.
much. Oh,
Hello,
you met me in
it's Ben
Metro!
Sullivan. Hello, mate. How are you, bud?
I just came back from Metrocon, so it was stupid amounts of fun. Really had a great time at Metrocon. I haven't been down to Melbourne since I started writing. So it was nice to actually get down there and see different people. Like, I think the Sydney crowd are like, do you have anything new? And I'm like, no. But the Melbourne crowd, because they hadn't seen anything, they were like, oh my God, what is this? You know? So it was, it was great.
So you were buzzing there. I see. You popped up in one of my feed the other day, and that comic had sold out. I see. So
yes, it's sold out
be a
in
bit
Sydney.
Of a regular sellout for you, mate.
Well, it did. It sold out in Sydney and it sold out at Metrocon. So, despite having written it 4 years ago now, it is still going strong. And I think
it stands a test of time, mate. It's a good book.
That's it. That's it. You know, and that's what you want to see when you make a good book. You know, that people just keep coming back and back and back, and they really like the idea. So, I think after doing Melbourne, actually, a lot of people were looking for horror and dark things in Melbourne, and that's what I love to write, but I've had to put it off to the side because people in Sydney don't particularly like it. So I'm actually really excited now to find something dark in my list of books that I've got to write and actually pick something to do. So poor Chris is going to get inundated with so much stuff.
It's I don't think he'll mind.
He's gonna get inundated. I feel bad for him. Like, I'm just like, I think I have like 10 books that I've just started, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through before finishing, and then I'm just gonna be handing him scripts like crazy and just being like, well, you pick your favorite one and we can go with that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a nice way of doing it. You know, there's no pressure. It's just you know, like, here you go, man. You know, like, you're the dude. Like, hit me. So I like it. Yeah. It's good. Well, we've got Sionche here. So I'm feeling you. I still love LARP, but I was bullied too much to continue. Still miss it, and actually working on a couple of LARP comics. It's hard to lose a hobby you love because of the culture.
Yeah. Look, it is hard, and it makes you feel like you lose something, but for some reason, whenever I lose something, I gain something else immediately. So when I lost cosplaying, I gained comics. And I always say when I'm at the conventions, I prefer being on that side of the table now, like not being on the other side and having to do. But it's weird though, because a lot of people who were cosplaying when I was cosplaying have left the community. There's very few of the old ones left. I think there's only like 3 or 4 of them that continue on. But it's sometimes when you do let go of that thing that was toxic, you find something better. And that, for me, that was comics. And I'm really glad that I did go into it.
Yeah, well, that's sometimes, I think no matter where you go into, man, like, there's always an element of toxicity, isn't it? You know, like, there's, I guess it's up to you know, you and the person as to whether or not you let it bring you down or whether you push on. And as you said, it sounds to me like you're already, you know, like, sometimes the first door is not the right one. It's like, you know, but it gets you through there. And then, like, as you said, you discovered like comics, and then you discovered the Greg Rucka scripts, and then you were like, man, I can have a go at that? Because you were just mentioning before that you'd tried writing like some novels and stuff like that too. So
Oh, so
you were obviously like creatively
yeah,
trying to,
yeah.
like find your, niche. So
So I was when I was younger, I used to write novels and songs, all this emo stuff as you do when you're a teenager. But
yeah,
a couple of years ago, I found the old story that I wrote and I read it and I was like, this needs to go into a shredder immediately and never see the light of day
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
it was so bad. But I was like,
yeah.
oh, what have I done? And you look back and you're like, okay, I was a very emotional teenage child. It's
Mm,
fine, but just
mm,
that never gets seen ever. Like,
yeah,
um, but yeah, I have I did a fine arts course as well, so I have a bit of an art background as well. So that's
yeah.
why I thought comics would be such a nice meld because
Mm,
you have to understand when you're making a comic as well, and you'd know this is that there's a balance between words and images,
yes.
and that's the best part. When you're writing a novel, you don't have that luxury of telling a story with a picture.
Yeah,
It's so much easier in a comic to describe a rusted ceiling fan than to go on for a page about it in a novel.
yeah, yeah.
So, you got the image right there. It's a rusty ceiling fan. So,
Yeah. Man,
um,
it's the perfect medium for that, really. Like, I love comics for that too. Like, look, don't get me wrong. Hello, Peter.
I
Um, I look, don't get me wrong, man. Like, I wrote lots of things when I was younger as well, mate. That I can definitely tell you if I had a shredder at the time, like they would have gone in it. But I'm a little bit of a hoarder, and my mum tends to um, keep a lot of the stuff that I've created, like if it was in the bin suddenly, like 20 years later, I'm like, how did you get that? And she's like, I took it out of, like you just know that
yeah.
mum like keeping these things. So yeah, no, I'm with you, but it's amazing. I don't know if you've come across it yet, but some of the, while I guess to where you are now creatively to like what you're thinking about comparing yourself to when you were younger, um, there's still strands of like your what you enjoyed and how you wanted to, I guess, voice yourself to the world at the time. Like I recently, like myself, discovered paintings that I did when I was probably about 17, 18, and I was talking to a mate of mine, and it really struck me that like I'd already had a little bit of my voice in there at like
Yeah.
17, and then you go on this big, long, windy, like journey to, I've got to find my voice, you know what I mean? Like to then like, hang on a minute, I never lost it, but you go on that weird, crazy journey. But that is
Yeah.
art, creativity,
I'm
man.
trying to think. When I was younger, I drew a lot of, again, anime, and I think that's what
Mm,
kind of led me into the conventions, led me to cosplaying, which then led me to comics. I think
yeah.
everything had its sort of stepping stone upward. But I knew I wasn't good at drawing. God, I'm not good at drawing. Um, so I had to sort of find something that fit. And I think
Mm,
it was only when I was older that I realized that writing was something that I had matured enough into. When you're
mm,
younger, you don't understand, you don't have the patience for sentence structure, you don't have the patience for
mm,
punctuality, you don't have the patience for, going through the flow of a story and trying to
yeah.
make it fit and then finding transitions and things like that. As someone who's older, you kind of now become very meticulous over those things, and you
Mm,
know what makes a good story, and you know what other people have done to make a good story. So it's a little bit more research, I think. It's a little bit more patience, and
yep.
it's those things that I found when I got older that came a little bit more naturally than when I was
Yep.
younger, and I just wanted to rush and get the story done. But you know, dialogue was terrible, just terrible. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. No, look, I'm feeling you. It's like, I've mentioned it on the show before, but my mum dragged out all of these little comic books that I used to make when I was like, I don't know, man, maybe like 5 to like 8 sort of thing. I was very productive between like 1985 1985 and 1988. I'll put it to you that way. And one of them was the jaguar hunts in the night. And like that was a story that I've looked back on, and I'm like, man, okay, like I'm a bit surprised no one, like sent me to talk to the counsellor. But
you know where my mum put my painting?
Man,
my mum put my painting in the downstairs bathroom. That's where my artwork ended up. So
in the downstairs bathroom.
Yep.
Like,
I'm like, wow. It's toilet art. That's just wonderful, Mum. Thanks.
Yeah, is it still
but
there?
It matches everything. Yes, it's still there. It is still there.
Yeah, well, that's man, right? I don't know. Like that's pretty cool.
I have one painting in the garage and one painting in the downstairs toilet. That's where I made it in the house.
Hey, it doesn't matter how big the gallery is, mate. Just as long as it's the gallery, and it's on show. And,
it makes me laugh. It makes me laugh. But my auntie actually came and bought some books at one of my conventions, which was quite nice. And I don't think she was prepared for the books when she saw them.
Mate, I think it's beautiful though that you've got family support, mate, like to an encouragement to do it. You know what I mean? It's like even your dad, like wondering, where your real name was as opposed to, Kane.
Yeah.
Your mum, like, sort of tripping out a bit, like, that's my daughter's, like.
Like, exactly.
And then your auntie rolling in there to pick up these
rolling in to pick up the books, and
and as you said, maybe being a bit like, but hey, look, that's all right, man. There's still support, like, and that's the best thing. That's the encouragement when those closest to you are giving you your best support.
Well,
man,
they know when the conventions are on now because they, they see the ads on TV or on the radio or something like that, and they're like, "Are you going? Are you going to be busy this weekend?" And I'm like, yes, this is a Supernova weekend, or this is an AusComX weekend. I'm glad you know, like, because my sister's birthday falls on the Sydney AusComX weekend every year. So she's learned now, and she's like, okay, I'll have you over 2 weeks in advance so that we can get my birthday done. And I'm like, cool, thanks. So it's good. It's good that they've sort of scheduled it into their lives. But
do you think that, like, when your mum's asking, like, for, are you going, like, do you think it's a, like in the case of, like, Nicole, have you forgotten that Supernova's on, or a friendly reminder, like, don't forget.
Did you know this is on? I'm like, no, I just booked my table, a year in advance. It's fine, Mum. I'm not prepared at all, but sure.
I know. It's like I love my mum, man, because she's the same, like very soft but encouraging and like always doesn't really understand the exact geometry of the thing, you know what I mean? But like she's like, come on, like even dudes that like. Like,
like, well, what are you working on?
An ugly drawing, and it's like dude hanging out of a tree, yeah, man, thanks, Mum. Oh, keep going, no worries. So
it's cute. It's cute.
Oh man, it's cool. Like, these are the things that keep everything rolling, man. Is and I think it's lovely to have family support doing those things that you're passionate about, particularly when you do find your right path, man, and you found your voice, like with what you're doing and things.
And like my latest book, where is it? Hang on, un momento. Let me pull it out of my
portal. Yeah, we call it a
darkness. Yeah. So this is the latest one that I've got, which is Your Highness. This actually came from a really old book that my mum used to read to me as a kid. And it was a really old Russian folktale. And I absolutely loved it. And it sort of always stuck with me in the back of my head that this story was, I don't know, it was just beautifully drawn. It was a bit weird, but it was something that always stuck with me. But I thought, okay, that's not in my style to just retell something. So I took the main premise and I completely twisted it and made it really dark and kind of my own thing, which is great because Chris absolutely loved it and ran with it. So we've had an absolute ball doing this book. But we're going to do another 2 more. So it's going to end up being 3 massive graphic novels by the end of it, which is great. But that was something of my history that ended up inspiring me to do something in my comics, which was great because then that led to showing what comics can be. You know, a lot of people, when you say comics, they go, "Oh, Batman, Superman." It's like, no, I don't write that, you know? So that's what my auntie was expecting, you know? I think that's a lot what a lot of people expect.
That is what a lot of people expect, you know, because I come across it, you know, like as well. People are like, "Oh, you draw," you know, like yeah. And the weird part is, like, I don't know, like for me, they never focus on, like, oh, they never ask, like, "Do you write?" You know, like, or, you know, like they just always like,
Oh,
"Do you
I'm the
draw?"
opposite.
Like,
I'm the opposite. They go, "Oh, so are these your drawings?" I'm like, "No." Like, not even close. I can't do this. You see this beauty? No, I'm just the one who writes the words. And they're like,
yeah,
"Oh, okay." You know?
yeah. No, and then they say, like, "Oh, so comics, you know, and what's it like?" And they always, for some reason, I always get Archie and you know, like Superman as well, you know, and I'm like, and generally I'm like, sure, you know, like, but a little bit more dystopian science fiction orientated,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, and um, but the best thing is like um, I like the fact that there's so much variety in comic books. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
that you can take something like you just had as a child and spin it, you know, like on its head, you know, like now, and infuse it with love from, you know, that childhood thing and with the skills that you've got now. Plus, you've also got, you know, like uh, look, I'm a fan of Chris. He knows that, his artwork, and I've got a piece of Chris's artwork here.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm a fan, and like it's always, you know, it must be really encouraging for you too as a creator to have uh, an artist that is with you 100%, you know, like on these stories and things. And like from already you're talking like you know, you've worked together on quite a few things, and you obviously communicate and you're good mates and stuff like that, which helps as well, you know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
you've got a vibe.
It's really good because we do, like, we have these moments where I'm describing something and he has either no idea what I'm saying or he'll completely get it to the point where it's
Yeah,
like pulling it out of my head. But we just really sort of understand where each other is at, and then we'll kind of like sort of nitpick on little bits and pieces, and then we sort of narrow it down to what we want, especially when we're designing the characters for YH. Very much we started off with a couple of really easy sketches. Chris was amazing at just nailing the bad chickie immediately. I loved her to death from the moment of get go.
yeah,
And it just came together very quickly, which was great because he knew where I was going with the really fancy costumes and that sort of fantasy element. But he did the same thing with Hellcourt, like immediately nailed that in 5 seconds. Fox and Hound was funny because he was like, I don't know how I feel about this, but I really want to do it, blah blah blah. And I was just like, well, you're going to be drawing a lot of women. And then a couple of issues later, he's like, why do you make me draw so many boobs? And I was just like, well, that's what it is. I'm
yeah,
sorry, you know.
yeah.
That yeah, we absolutely love working together. We're not stopping anytime soon. Fox and
That's
Hound
good.
6 is literally out now on Kickstarter, so
Yeah,
we're just working on
and
that.
kicking butt too, from looking at
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like,
it's
yeah, like,
going pretty well. We're hoping
yeah,
to
yeah,
open up a couple more stretch goals and give people some
yeah,
more extra stuff, and
yeah.
but that'll be the first sort of arc for the girls, and then we're gonna sort of have a small break and then get into the second one, which is going to be a totally different vein of
Yeah.
story, but I think it's going to grow a little bit more with the girls, and then we're not stopping them anytime soon, so they'll probably have more and more books, you know, maybe even spin-off ones, who knows. But Yeah, Chris and I absolutely love working together, and I feel bad for him because I just keep dumping work on him.
Yeah, no, you know, like I mean, he's a working artist, mate. You're a working writer, so when
Yeah.
you know when you find something that works, mate, you know.
And they ask, "Do you get paid well?"
Yeah, yeah,
No.
indeed. What do we got? Shionche. Oh, cool. I'll have to grab a copy. I have a painting a mate made inspired by that fairy tale and always loved it. There you go.
It's a really beautiful fairy tale. I actually have the
Like what's
original.
like when I was younger.
So that's
What
the
did?
actual book from when I was a child.
There we go. Beautiful.
I have it. So my
Yep.
mum found this a couple of years ago in the garage and was going to give it away, and I said, I will be taking that home with me right now. She's just like, why? And I'm just like, don't, just give me the book. Just give me the book, you know? And I love it. It's like in perfect nick. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how she's kept it so well over these years, but yeah, that was what inspired me, and I absolutely loved it. And it's funny how things like that you heard, you know, when you were 5, come back when you're 35, and you know, you can do something with them when you're older. But it's a good story. It was really interesting as a kid. I also really like morals. Anything with a moral. I don't think a lot of stories have them nowadays. And I kind of like to shove them in there wherever possible.
Yeah. Oh, I understand. Like I'm someone that's like with particularly, you know, my I was probably guilty in my first 4 issues of Battle for Bustle being very this character, that character, that character, action, you know, bouncing all around and having some time off to like have a think and, you know, learn from that little period of creativity and come into a new stretch, you know. And I guess I focus very much on, I always ask myself the question of like intent. What's my intent? Like, regardless of everything, it's just a little habit that I've gotten into, you know. So, like with that comic, it was like, you know, the new comic that's out, it's like, what's the intent on this? What's the message I want to get through to this? How do I want to portray this character and slowly develop them? I'm in the middle at the moment of like working through, you know, pencils and etc. for the next like volume 2, issue 2. And I'm constantly asking myself as well, like, what am I portraying here? What's the message? You know, like, because I think, I think Nicole, like, for me, like everything's so like fast paced. You know, like I'm in my mid to late 40s, and so I'm coming from a background of like, you know, things were a little bit slower than what they are now. It may be from the fact that I'm from far north Queensland, and you know, like I ran into a dude once, just to give people who've never been to far north Queensland before, and he said, "Oh, where you from?" And I said, "Far north Queensland." He said, "Oh, FNQ, fucking nothing quick." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess it is." You know,
I guess it is. Yeah.
Everything's just a little slower, and so you know, you just you just take things a little bit slower. But like news, everything, life moved a little bit slower. And now, like with so many socials and like something's brand new and then it's gone, or that, you know, there's like, this is fantastic, and then it's gone. And I don't know, like I try and, like, you know, movies, like any sort of content that I can get, I found the ones that like sit with me the most and the most succinctly are the ones that do have some sort of message or some sort of like morality tale, or maybe I'm becoming an old sap or something, but ones that really focus on, you know, like, you know, breaking your fear and, you know, having faith and giving, you know, like, and love and all that sort of stuff, man. I like those things, positive messages, you know what I mean? What the message for the individual, I think it's cool. You know, there's people
I find
out
that
there
too.
mad bombs and action and blowing cars up, you know, that's cool, because, you know, the comics
that's entertainment, and some people like that just to get away from reality. But sometimes, I don't know. Yeah, I like kind of a mix. I don't like. I like a good action one if it's got a good story behind it. Kind of like, you know, the sort of like the John Wick sort of thing. You know, it's heavy on the action, but it had a really good story. But if it's just people blowing up cars for no reason, it's just like, well, that was boring. That was 90
Yeah.
minutes of somebody blowing up a car. So yeah, it's I guess everything has its time and place, but I guess that's the cool thing about comics too, is that
Yeah.
you have this format that you can do whatever you want with.
That's
You
the
know,
awesome part of it, man. And that's like we were saying before, like with you know, we touched on it before about how people just have such different concepts of comic books, you know, because it's and they think it is like Batman or it is Superman or something
Yeah.
like that. Where, you know, particularly like I mean, I don't so much. I mean, again, this is just me. My main primary focus of collecting comics and reading comics these days is Australian comics, obviously, because being involved in it and creating in the community, I like to keep a track on you like yourself and other creators and people and follow their work and things like that. And what always blows my mind is, man, there's never two comics the same. You know what I
no,
mean? Like, it's like you can think you know what you're getting, and then you read it and you go like, wow, man, that's a really unique take on that, you know? Like, and that's a healthy thing, man, like to be in. You don't want to sort of get, I don't think you want to get stuck into like, oh, you know, I know what's in that room and this room, you know, like it's like when you've got like, you know, you want to go to the fruit store and try all the fruit, mate. You know what I mean? You don't want to just get like a pallet of watermelon, you know?
it's true.
You know?
It's true.
You know, so lots of flavors, mate. Lots of flavors.
But
Yeah,
the other cool part too is that you can mix, like you've got different art styles and the different genres and the different writing styles. Like one of my favorites, is it on my shelf? I swear to God, I just keep reaching back for my shelf right now.
It's okay. We love corners on
I
the
just
show.
have so much on my shelf. There is this one particular comic that I absolutely love. Can't remember the name of it now, which is really annoying. But the art, the story is kind of like a mafia-y, you know, mob bossy sort of thing, crime. But the artwork is all done in soft watercolors. So the juxtaposition to the really hard story to the really soft art works so well. And I think that's another take on what you can do in this genre. Like you can have the hard story and the action, but you know, it doesn't have to be in that it's typical American art is what I call it, which is, you know, what the big ones do, like DC and Marvel. Like I think that because there are so many different artists now, both pencil, digital, you know, watercolors, you've just got a zillion art forms to use.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Lackadaisy.
Lackadaisy.
No, Lackadaisy is the one with the cats. That's the one with the cats. This one, it's gonna bug me now. It's gonna bug me. Let me find it. I will keep talking as I peruse my shelf.
Lackadaisy is about, man, because I'm like,
it's really cute. It's really cute. It's I think it's about cats who are mob people. I remember watching it on YouTube a while ago. They got funded really well. And the animation's really cute. It's really nice.
All right.
But this one I'm determined to find because it's one of my favorites. Like I've got a bunch of them. Like I absolutely love Low. That's one of my favorite comics. Once and Future is an amazing one if nobody's read that. Definitely read Hex. Hex is a really old one if you can find it. The writer is Michael Allen Nielsen, and it's the artwork is done by Dan Mora, who does stuff for DC now. Incredible. Like just really incredible little sort of witchy kind of supernatural story. Amazing. It's one of my Bibles. I've got like 4 Bible comics that I constantly refer back to. Definitely one of them. Love it to death. Yes, this is what here it is. The Assignment. So this is the comic, The Assignment. It's really hard to find. It doesn't have very much to it, like it's quite small, but the artwork is just sensational. Like it's very watercolory. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's very watercolory and sort of.
Tell you what, Nicole, let's see if there we go. Sis brought it up.
There you go. There you go. Look at this. Look at this glory.
Oh, lovely.
I love it. I love it. It's one of my Bible comics. I refer to it. It's actually to the point where this comic is actually starting to sort of slightly fall apart. That's how many times I think I've reread it. So
You might have to get on eBay and find yourself a new
I think
copy.
I will. I
You
think
might
I
have to
see
have
if
a
they
backup.
actually have like a actual thick book of it.
Yeah, you might have to.
So I don't
like,
destroy it
contact or
anymore
something.
because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
seem to destroy everything that's in a floppy. But
Well,
yeah,
man, that's because it's loved. You know,
I love it. Like
look,
literally, I absolutely love it.
mate. I'm when it comes to floppies and stuff too. Like, you know, people that are hardcore comic collectors, you know, like their things graded and that, you know, peace and love and harmony to everyone that wants to do their thing. But I have often said, like, I particularly like reading comic books, and the ones that I like, I love, and I have no dramas with, you know, folding them back and looking at them and like analyzing them and putting, you know, chucking them on it, you know, like it's. I just, yeah, no, man. When I see wear in a comic book and the staples are all like barely hanging
Yeah,
on,
that's what mine is like. Yep. But
that's a
like even
love
like
comic.
I've got a giant omnibus here. Like you can't not read it without cracking that spine. You just can't. So you're gonna have to crack the spine. It's kind of like a
Yeah,
rite of
yeah.
passage when reading the book. If it doesn't have the crack in it, you haven't read it, and it's just
That's,
sitting there.
that's right, mate. If it doesn't, you know, you got to be dubious on the person that says, you know, like, you know, I've
Oh,
read
I
this.
love comics, but I haven't touched them. But that's nice.
Yeah,
That's for you.
yeah, yeah. That's
Mine
cool.
are
But
mine are
hey,
a mess on my shelf.
no, I've look. I'll be honest with you. I, oh man, I haven't bought. I've really just been thoroughly Australian comics of late, and yeah, I've got a few that cop a flogging. There's I've always said, like, in particular, I mean, I've got, like you, man, like there's three or four that you know, like they're there in case, like they're never far away. The Crow is one of them.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
yeah, since I was a little boy, I love that, and I'm pretty big on that. But most people know that. I mean, there's heaps, man. There's boxes and boxes of them. You know, like there's, you know, some. Is it that good?
They're
Damn,
good.
there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
well, you know,
is. It is. It really is.
yeah.
Um,
It's, man. I just, you know, a lot of my 2000 AD stuff. Slain, ABC Warriors. If anyone's ever heard of them, I'm a huge ABC Warriors fan too. You know, things like that. So they're always on the go. And man, they're not in good nick. Let me tell you, I've had to restaple some of those. I've even taped them, you know, and
Yep.
wrap tape around them. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Keep them together. And when I was younger, this is how, I don't know, you know, but I used to, in England, there used to be a Marvel. Marvel used to publish in UK, so it was called Marvel UK, and their creators and artists used to get licenses for like Transformers and things like that.
Oh, yep.
And
Yep.
their
Yep.
and their Transformers comics, man, were, you had the cartoon in America, which was all you know, like sort of bit dull, you know, like, but then you had the English version, which was Transformers being, you know, decapitated, torn apart. Like it was like two separate worlds, man, of like, what is going on here, you
This
know?
is the
Like,
PG version. This is the
yeah,
normal
yeah, yeah,
version.
yeah. And they were like putting it all out there. And it's really like amazing stuff. And those comic books, man, like fell apart to the point where I used to trim them and trim around the paneling and stick them in A4 plastic sleeves and
Yes.
use them in folders, you know, like, and just
Yes.
so I could keep them and read them. That's how much I loved them. And I still love them. I still wish I had them. I don't ever actually know what happened to them. I might have to try and dig through and find some. But so you got me on a track there, goodness.
On a
But,
rant. We love
yeah,
rant.
yeah, you know. But
I
that's
rant
that's
a lot. I think
oh,
people
look, man,
find that of me when I go to a convention is that when
yeah.
you're standing at the table, I just start talking,
But
and it's
what's wrong with
great.
that? That,
Nothing.
man,
Nothing. It's great
that's
fun.
the beauty of having, you know, like vocal cords and operative, you know, like intellect and mouth and stuff like that. You know, you got to express yourself, man. You know, like um, I think expressing yourself is good as long as
I love it. I love it.
yeah, yeah.
So I love talking to people at conventions. I love having a chat. Especially love talking about the comics. Most people come to me if they're just starting, so they just want to know
Mhm.
how to get into it, how to start
Yeah.
it. Stuff like that. And I just love it.
All right, well, let's take you back to that then. I'm little Leigh, and
Little
all
Leigh.
right, yeah, little
Okay.
Leigh, and
Okay.
you know, and believe it or not, you can even imagine me being, let's say, 4 foot tall, looking like I am now with the beard and shit. If you
Yep.
really
Yep.
want to,
Sure.
I mean, if,
Sure.
you know, we're on a creative vein, so it's like let's roll with that.
Hmm.
Um, and you know, like I'm like, Nicole, how do I get started? So like, you know, take us back to where you got started, man, and where you decided, like, how'd you get it happening? You do a Kickstarter, you jump in, you know, how'd you find your first artist? What was your
I
dance
think
and then
what
get
I
to there?
say to a lot of people is start with ash cans, which are the
Mhm.
small 10-page stories.
Yep.
I find that they're the easiest to write, and it's easy to find somebody who wants to do a 10-page story with you. It's harder to find somebody to get like 24 pages consistently in issues, or even pump out, a graphic novel or something like that. It's
Mhm.
really difficult. So it's a lot easier to start smaller.
Yep.
From there, then you can see if you like the artist or not too. You get that choice. If they were difficult to work with, you can just go, okay, well, just move that along.
Like,
But if they're not, and
you
if
know,
they're really good, then you can go, hey, I would like to do more. Are you up for more? And then they can go, oh, yeah, I loved it. Or, nah, I'd rather just do pin-ups or
mm,
something like that. And
yep.
that's where I started. I think I started with like 3 or 4 of them. And then I put those up online, and then I just started talking to people on Facebook. And they were
Mm.
like, oh, you want to write? Do you want to do this with me? Do you want to work with this with me? And that's how it all kind of just fell together, thankfully.
And
And
you injected yourself into the Australian comic book community via like the socials because
look, I did. Yeah,
a lot
Facebook
of
was the big one. If you can
yep,
get on Facebook and join all the groups and everything like that, that's where you're going to find a lot of support. That's where you're going to find a
yep.
lot of people. That's where you're going to sort of meet a lot of artists who are also just starting out. Wait, is Kane a comic book? I wish, dear God, I wish. No, I suck at drawing. I absolutely fail miserably. But that's where I found a lot of my artists, was through Facebook. And it
Yeah,
is a trial and error, I'm not gonna lie.
yeah.
I found a lot of people who I love working with, and a lot of people that I just had to stop working with because it didn't work. And
Hmm.
that's part and parcel of the whole thing as well. Like,
Yeah,
don't give up just because somebody can't finish the work, or that the project failed on the first attempt. That's okay. Like, one of my first comics, loved it to death, put a lot of effort into doing the first issue. It is terrible. I will rewrite it. It was garbage, but I loved doing it. I love the idea. I'm still got the idea, so I won't let go of that idea, but
yeah.
the first attempt was really bad. And I
Mm.
can see that now, looking back. So I think I had to make that fall to get back up and go, okay, I made that mistake.
Yep.
I now know what I'm doing. And that's what I find at the conventions too. I'm
Mm.
always learning. Every time I go to a convention, I'm always learning something new, like
Mm.
how to better merchandise or format, or just even, just to get people's attention, just say, hi, how's it going? So
Yeah.
I think that that's another really good starting point for people, is just to immerse yourself in the community. And it doesn't matter which community you're in, whether you're, an American or an Australian or a New Zealander or whatever. Go find your community and just start talking to people. Like,
Yeah.
everyone in the Australian community scene is so friendly and so lovely. And honestly, I don't think I've met a bad person in our community, which is just astonishing. So that's where I go to, especially when I just need like a little pick me up, or like a little reminder of why I'm doing this.
Mm.
Just chat to somebody and go, hey, how you going? What are you working on? And they tell you, and then you start talking, and then it's like you've been talking for 4 hours. So, but
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I that's where I started. I started with little stories. I've put them all into a big anthology now, which is great because I have a big
Yep.
book with it now. Um, and I think that's where most people should go with that idea. When I was starting, I did enter a lot of anthologies online.
Yeah.
Put it was like, what was it? 2 to 5 pages, I think, was like the starting asking
Yeah.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody. And then they would sometimes pair you up with an artist, or you could find your own. So I
Okay.
did one for Cthulhu is Hard to Spell. That was one of my first big ones that I got into. And I was so excited to get into it because it was a big book, big production. I love working on it. I want to go into the next one. I think they're taking bids for the next one now. But that was sort of a good learning experience because I got an artist to do the work with me. Absolutely loved working with her. And then that kind of opened the doorway to more artists who were like, oh, I know you from that book, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So even though it's small and it's only like 2 or 4 pages,
Yep.
it's still worth it because then you get to connect with everyone else who's working on that project.
Mm.
And
Mm.
when that all clicks in, people, you read their work, they'll read yours, and somebody might go, hey, I really loved your story. Can I work with you, or do you want to work together? And you can go, absolutely, I'd love to. So, it's things like that. Even though they may seem tiny, they're actually quite big. And
Yeah.
I still enter anthologies now. Like, even though I'm working on my own stuff and I've got my own books and
Mm.
everything, I still go looking for anthologies I can enter because I just love doing them. Like, it's just
Yeah. Yep.
another little thing, especially when I'm stuck. I'll just
Yeah.
do a 2 or 4 pager and it'll almost like reset everything.
Mm.
And you feel like you can start again and you're like, oh, okay, I'm okay now. I'm okay. I can go back to my own work.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I understand that completely too. I'm a bit with like that with my artwork, like sometimes you can get really bogged down in a story and you finish it and you just feel like you just need a creative bath, I guess, to a certain
Yeah.
extent, to refresh, get some new ideas flowing and then come back to what you're doing later on or whatever. But one thing I like what you said there, mate, is and I think it's important. It's something that I've learned is you never do stop learning, and I don't think, and like, and if you think you know it all, man, like you're like way down
Uh,
the bottom,
I
like
just
you're
learned.
way,
I
man.
just
It's
learned
like
how
the
to use
thing.
TikTok for the first time a couple of months ago, and I feel
Oh,
old. Like I feel old.
God.
How
Ah,
important is
there's
the
Danny
editorial
Nolan.
process with you? Ah, so I do all my own editing. Um, Full disclosure, I'm terrible at spelling, absolutely terrible. So I will make sure that I'm like 100% focused on that. Um, but editing is a hard one. If you can get other people to look over the works before it goes to print, really good idea.
Mm.
Chris and I have made mistakes on previous comics and only realized it after it's been printed, and we've both looked at it.
You're
So
not the person to do that, mate.
we're like, oh crap. But yeah, I usually get a couple of people to try and read it, sort of in the script stage, and then in the artwork stage, I'll put like the bubbles of where I want the writing to go and sort of do a little check there.
Yep.
And then before obviously it goes to print, you'll read it again for like the 50th time. And then you can recite your own book verbatim. And I think that's the biggest help part of it. I think the other thing too is that if you're not confident in linking your story, definitely get somebody who understands where the story is going.
Yep.
I find that that's a thing, especially when people who are writing graphic novels, because they're so chunky and heavy and big,
Mm.
they get halfway through the novel and they've put it down and picked up and done something else or stepped away or whatever, and they've come back and that connection is lost,
Yep.
and then the story diverts into a whole different direction, and that can be something that the editor will pick up and go, oh, okay, well, what happened here? Like, why
Yeah.
does the story
It's
diverge?
like it's
So
like they've had a like an old movie, like where they have the intermission and they've
yeah,
come back and they've like flooded I had all these other ideas and they put it on and it's
yeah,
like,
yeah, and all of a sudden your main character is, in a parking lot with 50 cars, and so where did that come from?
yeah,
So Yeah, definitely. I think an editor is really important. I would love to hire one in the future, but at
Yep.
the moment, I am just me. And I was saying this at the convention, actually. I was saying this at Metrocon that I should write on the back of my shirt everything that I do, because I'm not just the writer. I'm
Mhm.
like the writer, the letterer, the formatting, the printing, like everything goes under my name. How much
Yeah.
stage
It's the
direction do you give your
entree.
artists? Okay, so with this question, it depends on the artist. Chris, I barely give him anything. He gets maybe 3 lines per page, like per panel.
Yep. Yep.
Unless I'm describing something really heavy to him or it's something that he doesn't understand, then I'll go into a lot of detail. But generally with Chris, it's quite short. I kind of leave it to his imagination.
Is that
There,
because you're so familiar
yeah,
working together?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely,
Yep.
because I trust him 100%, and I know that
Yep. And you're
he knows
vibing.
where
You've
I'm
got your
going.
chemistry.
Yeah.
Boom. You're there. Yep.
Like, there's been a couple of panels where I'm like, that is not what I was saying at all in that panel. But again, that's what you get with the roughs.
Yep.
You can see where the story is going, and you can change it before you start doing anything solid.
Yep.
With some other artists, I've had artists who I've worked with who have asked specifically for heavy detail, and they've
Mhm.
asked me to pretty much line out the entire panel. So just
Mhm.
either they weren't confident or they just wanted a lot of information because English isn't their first language as well. So they
Gotcha.
want
Yep.
as much detail as they possibly can. And then I've
Yep.
had sort of in between where, just depends on the story. Sometimes the story lends itself to quite a heavy dialogue or a panel, or
Yep.
sometimes it's the opposite and you just have to use like 1 or 2 words. I think there was one I was recently writing where it was like, cat walks on parchment. Like, what else can I say? Cat walks on parchment. Like, it's that was about it. So, it's quite simple. So it just
Mhm.
really depends. It really depends. I'm quite light personally. I'm quite light on my panels. I like to give my artists room to breathe.
Yep.
I like to have their own interpretation and see what they come up with.
Mhm.
Just because that's, I guess, the way I am. But I know some people who literally write like paragraphs for each panel,
Mm. Mm.
and to the point where they're like giving you almost like a stage direction. And I'm like, well, that's a little too much. Like, that doesn't give you any room to breathe. That doesn't give the artist any creativity when they're creating this. It's just, you must do this.
Yeah. I
So,
guess I like, for me personally, what you've said there is like, for me, if I was coming from Leigh the artist and
mm,
looking for somebody else to, draw their work, I would lean towards someone giving me space to, just have a little bit of creative flair and see how it goes, But
yeah.
along the time that I've met lots of, people in the community and stuff, and had yarns and seen and talked to how they have their own creative processes. It's man, there's a lot of different styles and a lot of different comfort levels. Like, some people are
That's a good
there,
one. Comfort level.
they want, boom, this is what you want, I'll give you what you want, that's cool,
Yep.
man, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
that's what they want to do. Some people want to be like, oh, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and like, and that's cool too, but then it comes to like the writer and how much they want to give of their creation, or how much the writer's looking forward to seeing what that person can give back to them, and they may get, feed the energy off,
Mhm.
like, I mean,
Mhm.
there's so many different. I don't think there's like, because one thing that I always like, I see regularly on Chinwag is people, and people that I just talk to always talk about what's the process of everything, and man, I don't. Everyone's got a different process. Like you
Everyone
would,
has a different process.
yeah. There's
There are
no,
so many writers that I talk to,
man,
and they're like, this is my thing, this is the way I do it, this is the way I write it. And they're
mm,
like, can you just read over it and edit it for me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm looking at their script and I'm like, why is there so much on this page? Like, sometimes the bulk of dialogue, it's like there's no room to breathe. There's no panel to breathe here. It's just blob. You might as well just put a box of text at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, it's everyone's comfort levels, really. I try and write to what my artist likes as well. I love to ask my artists what they would like to draw.
Yep.
That's how I started working with my American artist, Laurent. She's my new one for Wretched Potions that I just released. Her art style leans towards more gothic fantasy.
Yep.
So I asked her, here's a bunch of bios for the stuff that I've got hanging around. What do you want to work on? And yeah, she picked Wretched Potions. And she absolutely loved the story. So I think it lent very well to her artwork as well. That's why.
That would indicate that you've been conscientious of a particular style and taste that you wanted, and the artist that you've found has suited that as well. And through communication and each other's styles for that particular story, it's worked. So you've done.
That's right. That's right. I don't like to give artists, like, if they lean towards darker works, I'm not going to give them a romance. Like, that's cruel. I might as well just give them.
It'd be interesting. Cruel.
Have a dark romance, But yeah, I try and find something that is in my repertoire but would suit their tastes. And that's what I did for Chris. That's how I found Chris. He was drawing fairies at the time on Instagram. That's why I wrote him a fairy story to test him out, because I knew that's what he was into and that's what he was drawing at the time. And then as we started to talk and get to know each other and everything like that, I started to scroll more through his artwork, and that's when we found the sort of Japanese style. And I said, well, I have this bizarro story. Do you want to take a crack at it? And he was like, yep, let's do it.
And so, obviously the other thing, Shion, that's why I love to hear about processes. It's fascinating to see all the different ways people work, and kind of permission of my weird processes. So everyone's processes are weird.
It's true. It's all weird and it's all different. And I think, again, that's the beauty of comics, is that it can be so varied. You don't have to stick to that format. I think books are very linear and limited because they're in those particular formats. But comics, you get such an array of randomness that it's like this melting pot of weird designs that sort of work. Like, I take the comic book Low, for example. That book has very little panel actual borders to each panel. And most of the artwork spills out and sort of tells the story as it moves through the page, which is very clever. And I particularly enjoy that. I don't like it when people put blocks and very segmented panels. I like it when the art can flow. But again, that's just my preference, And Chris has picked up on that. He's very much picked up on that, especially with Your Highness, Your Highness. There are some pages that just don't have panels at all, and that are just images that interlock with each other to make this page, which is beautiful. I absolutely love it. So, and I think that's another thing.
That's the interpretation of it too, man. Because see, one thing because I grew up, panel, and and then I always look. This is just me. I always thought, like, why don't they use? I love Low.
I want it so bad. I actually saw it in Melbourne and I was like this close to buying it, but I knew that my weight limit was going to be terrible. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to order it and get AusComX to ship it up to me. I'm done. Like,
yeah, it's good.
Yeah. It's beautiful. If you guys haven't read it, like, absolutely go and read it. I'm dying to know the rest of it.
Yeah.
But I wanted to find that one page here. Is this one possibly?
Are you going to show Low now?
No. This is my one. This is YH. So as you can see, like these pages, they're not strict panels. They're more like sort of little images that sort of click together.
Yep.
And I really like that about, especially when I'm working on comics. I think it's just something interesting that breaks it up. It's not the same thing. But
man, I love push. Like, I'm a big I like using the whole page. I don't see
Yeah.
why panels and bleeds and that should stop you. You know what I mean? Like
No,
to a
no,
certain
use the
extent,
entire
but
area. You have
push
a whole
out.
page
You
to
know,
play
like
with.
yeah, no, I'm 100% with you, man. That's where I sort of lean to as well in terms of where I'm heading and that. You know, like um, just I think it just adds a little bit more fluidity. It adds a little bit more. You know, and you can, you know, I just sometimes think like, you know, I don't get involved in, you know, like Facebook conversations, but there are people with opinions and stuff, and that's okay. You know, like it's fine. Like it, you know, love, peace, harmony, all that sort of stuff. Do you think, you know? But I find sometimes that, you know, someone said to me a long time ago is too much think, not enough do. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
you gotta, you know, let just go, man, and just like try and do it. It's I always used to run into trouble, and I'd be like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do, you know, sometimes just the fun, like you're discovering, like even though you've got your lane and you know what you like, and you know you've got it together, man. You know you've got your thing happening. But
I
I
wish.
would
I
say
wish.
no, you know you're pretty solid. You know an NS Kane product, man. So like you've got your
Well, yeah,
thing.
that's actually true. That's actually true. You probably could
You
pick
know?
mine from a lineup. But
Yeah,
that's not
yeah,
where I
yeah,
started. I actually wanted to do DC first. That was
yeah,
my
right.
where I was pointed. I was pointed towards DC,
Yeah,
and then about a year or two in, I said no. I don't want to do well. Like to work for DC would be an absolute dream come true, but
yeah,
I think the other companies like Image and Valiant and Volt and like who's the other one? There's Oni Press, like all of the littler ones that sit underneath that are producing some ridiculously good work.
mm,
And the stories are so rich and just full of not only emotions but characters that you just want to keep reading. Like that's why Saga's gone on for so long. The character development is just insane.
yeah,
So that's where I wanted to sort of steer towards now. And I'm like, it's not just linear anymore. It's not just the big two. It's
mm,
so many comic book companies that are coming out of the woodwork
yeah,
that are producing incredible stories. And
yeah.
look, anything can be made into a TV show nowadays too. Like that's a whole new world of comics. Like look at The Boys for God's sake. That's just
Yeah.
skyrocketed.
Do you find that when you're creating something or an idea, this is just interesting topic while we're talking about the TV show side of things, it's
Mm.
something that just popped into my head, you know, like over time. When you're creating something, do you think to yourself, I think this will make a great comic book, or do you think this will make a great comic book? I could see this becoming a TV show or a cartoon, because you did mention, you know, like that. What's your motivation with some
If
things, you know?
look, if YH became a TV show, I'm not going to say no to that at all.
Hmm.
I actually there's one actress who would be amazing to play. So this is the bad character there.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
100% I've got an actress that would be fantastic to play her. But
Mhm.
again, that's just a cherry on top. Like that
Yeah.
is not the whole reason I do comics, because I like books. I like books
Mm.
with pictures. I guess I'm a giant child. I like
That
picture
makes
books. Look at
two
me
of us,
go.
Nicole. It makes two
Yeah.
of us, mate. So
I'm a
don't
big
stress.
kid.
You're not alone
Um,
there.
so I don't I couldn't even begin to imagine having my stuff as a TV show. Like I wouldn't
Mm.
even know how they would make it. It would just baffle me to that point where I'd be like, "Oh God, how are you doing this? How are you telling my story and it's moving? How does this work?"
Yeah.
So for me, that's it's not the be all and end all. It's a cool idea. I think it does also help the comic book community.
Yeah.
Having books turned into TV shows, because then people go seeking out the original books, and then they go and find more comic books. So I know that that's what's happened with The Boys, especially. That's probably the best example at the moment, where a lot of people have gone and found the book and then found other books by that particular artist or writer, and then that's led them to more things in that genre that they particularly like. So it is opening up the world of comics to mainstream very quickly, and I think that's the best part about it. But stuff like 300, I didn't know that that was a comic book. I thought that was just a movie, and then it was only later, after the movie came out, that I found out that it was a book, and I was like, oh my god, this is even better in the book. Like, how is that possible? The movie was great and I loved it, but the book was just stunning. So
I discovered 300, believe it or not, in the library, and I didn't even know at that time that comic books were in the library. There wasn't a specific section for graphic novels and stuff. I just happened to be looking through the shelves because, like, I'm just back in at certain times in my life, I can be a very voracious reader, as in, like, I will quite easily sit down for several months and just
and
read.
consume. Yep, I was the same. I would just consume book after book after book.
Yeah,
but I was
like
the same.
put sauce on it and like eat it, like I'm talking mass consumption.
Yeah.
And man, and I saw this hardback book and it had 300, and my dad loved history, and I'd known about the Battle of Thermopylae when I was a little boy, because Dad, it's something, it was a topic that Dad admired the Spartans and things. Like, I won't go too much detail, but Dad liked history, and I got brought up on history. And I was like, 300, and I went, 300. You're right.
Keep going. I'm just sneezing, or
and
trying to hold a
I
sneeze.
don't get you. I pondered, like, is that the battle? So I pulled it out, looked at it, and I was like, Frank Miller. Hang on a minute, I didn't know he did this. Like, and I'd just finished reading like some Sin City stuff, and I would have been like, where did this dude come from? Took it home and thought, like, wowzers, now that'd make a good movie. And then about a year later, there's
the
like,
movie.
Isn't that
well,
book I read?
It was like Old Guard. I read Old Guard, and then Greg was like, yeah, we're making a movie of it for Netflix. And I'm just like, why did I see that happening? Like, why did I foresee this?
Yeah.
But
I think something, that's why I wonder, like, some things just, I don't know, like, maybe they just appeal more to the sensibilities of a film than they do a comic book, or both work across both mediums.
At some point, somebody's got to pick it up and really love it and go, right, this is going to make, like, they can see the movie in their head, almost like we can see the comic book coming to life. They can see the same with the movie. They can see the action scenes. They can see the sadness, or the drama moments and stuff like that. Like, I think that's where they do pick it up and go, right, this needs to get made into a TV or a movie, just because I love it and somebody else is going to love it.
Yeah, well, that's the wonderful thing about both mediums, man. Like, and I mean, in the world today, I guess, of comic books and novels being translated to film and television shows and stuff. Like, I mean, imagine, I don't know whether it was luck or divine intervention or the quality of the product at the time, but I'll go back to, like, The Crow, being this small independent comic book in America that bounced around a couple of different publishers and took the man like 7-8 years to get it together after going through life's up and downs and turmoil and stuff, and then for someone, I think it was a producer, like, that just randomly walked into a comic book shop one day,
randomly found it, and then made the movie, which became a cult classic.
And read it and just went, man, that'd be a good movie, and then just off it, and so, I mean, luck.
But in saying that, they have picked up some amazing comics and made terrible movies.
Oh yeah.
Bloodshot. That's It was terrible. I read the comic, loved the comic.
Yeah.
They made the movie. I was just like, what did they do? What did they do? But
Yeah.
I think that's the gamble, you know.
I try to I try to I don't know. I guess I don't really watch a lot of superhero stuff. I haven't seen the new season of The Boys and that. You know, like I find that I have to have my brain in the
You have
right
to be in the
place
right
for it.
headspace for the
Yeah,
boys.
yeah, I
Like,
do, and I've been creating for the last couple of months. So when I tend to create, and I'm in my little zone of drawing and writing and painting and stuff, I don't have a lot of content
yeah,
going. You know, I find it just I don't know, it sparks things that aren't like
yeah.
you know, what I'm doing
I'm
at the time.
I'm the same. I'm the same. I usually lock myself into music and don't have anything on the TV because I just need
Yeah,
to create my own world. Because then you start
yeah.
copying lines and
And you don't realize you're doing it. It's just a
nah,
subliminal thing, and it's not until you go back and you go, "Hang on a minute."
I've read that before.
Yes, you know. So yeah, I found what I generally do, man, is I go through a voracious period. Like at the moment, seeing I've got that issue done, and like my next little thing's happening. I've got my comic books that I've stacked up, and I've got my novel, and like those
Yep.
sorts of things. And over the next like month, 6 weeks, it's a case of like, yeah, it's just like hanging out with me dogs, and
Mm.
working and reading, and and then it'll be time to like, okay, next thing, like, so I don't know, man. I guess that is a weird creative process of mine, is like,
I
yeah,
want that.
when I stick my head into it and go. My mate said to me, he goes like, because he's a sporty dude, and I hadn't thought about this analogy before, but he said it's like you're preparing for a marathon to start your comics, man. It's like
Yep.
you stop and you go into rest mode for like a month or two, and you get everything together, like you're sort of training a little bit, and then as you get
Yep.
things together, you pick up the train, and you pick up the train, and then when you're ready to go, it's race day, and then it's like bang, you're in, and
You're
then
in that zone. If
yeah,
anyone
man,
disturbs you when you're in that zone, get the hell out of my house.
yeah, and then no
Because
one
yeah.
sees you for a period, and it's like, geez,
No,
you're
and
off.
then they're just like, "Where did you go? Why don't you ever leave the house?" Because I'm
Yeah,
working. I actually have
yeah,
a joke at work. My work. I have a normal day job as well, and
yeah, yeah,
my
yeah,
work friends know about this and everything. And they're like, "Oh, what are you going to do when you go home?" They've stopped asking me that because they know the answer is going to be work. I go
yeah,
home and I sit down, and then I go back to work because
yeah,
that's what it is. It's a second full time job for me. So I'm
yeah,
always doing something, whether it's doing something on a Kickstarter or tinkering around with that, or making a title page, or changing a font or lettering, or like talking to a printer. There's something. There's always something going on.
yeah. And
So
see, that's the other thing, like getting into that, because man, you sound like me, because none of my mates invite me anywhere anymore, because it's just like
it's
they always
the
like,
same.
look,
They
man,
all
I love
know.
my mates and they love me, but it's like, man, I'm
Yep.
drawing. What do you mean, man? Like, you're always drawing. It's what
Do
I
you want to
do,
come and
mate.
do this? Do you want to come out on Saturday? Do you want to go play magic or something?
Yeah.
No, I'm working. I'm sorry. You know.
Yeah, yeah, and they're like, I think they think I'm nuts, but like, hey, it's cool. It's I'm doing my thing and I'm happy. But what I was like with the process too is like when were talking earlier about learning, it's not just like the process that you find comfortable. Once you've sort of worked, like I'll give you an example of my processes, Nicole. This is how much I don't necessarily have a process. The last comic of Battle for Bustle, which I just finished,
Mm,
I
mm.
did all the artwork first. And then I went back and did it the Marvel way with the script, because as I was doing the artwork, I had a synopsis. I did the artwork, and then I knew like what I wanted to do as I was drawing the book, and then went back and
Mhm.
did the script. The next issue, I've already done the script, and I've done the thumbnails to the script. So it's like, man, I don't even know what I'm doing. It's it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I
But look,
don't
I,
know,
I
man.
do the
Like,
same thing. I do the
yeah,
same thing randomly. Like I'll have the whole script worked out, and then I'll see the thumbnails and I'd be like, I absolutely hate that chunk of 5 pages. I'm gonna get rid of that and
yeah,
completely redo it. You
yeah,
know?
yeah. So
So
that's the randomness of it, isn't it?
mhm.
And then when you think you got that, sorted. Then you go to like talk to a printer, and then when you get your proofs and everything, then you got to start. That's cool, but then you got to start thinking about paper, and then you got to start thinking about costs of paper, and then you got to
Do
start
you
thinking
want a
about,
gloss cover or not?
oh
That is
yeah,
the
man, like,
question.
and then you're like, what? Too many questions. I just want this on paper, like.
Yeah.
And then you see
And then
something
you
it's like,
see the price and you're like, wait, I must have clicked the wrong paper. I'm gonna go click the cheaper one,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
there's
it's
so
it's
much
it's a
to
lot
learn.
behind the scenes. A lot of people ask me that as well. Do you
Yeah, like
avoid burnout working
Fiance.
full-time job?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I have massive burnout points.
Mm,
I do keep a monthly sort of, I'm gonna call it a breakdown, and it breaks up every single day. And I
not
do try and
emotionally, I hope. Just comic
no,
book
no, no,
wise.
just comic book wise, just comic book wise. I do try and put days off in there. I
Yeah,
actually wasn't scheduling days off for a while, and my partner said, "Look, you need breaks. You need a
yeah,
day off where you can just sit and watch TV and
yeah.
you know, especially since my job is shift work as well. So I start
Mm,
at different times on different weeks. And some
yeah,
weeks I'll start really, really early and finish early, which will be my weeks where I can do a lot of work because I have free time. And then the weeks where I'm starting later in the morning and I get home later, those are more break weeks
yeah.
because I don't have a lot of time in the night. So I'm just doing tiny things like whether
Mm,
I'm fixing something up or just responding to a couple of emails or like futzing around with a Kickstarter or something like that. I'll just do something small and
mm,
not really sit down and like smash out half a script.
yeah.
Um, I find that it is really easy to burn out when you have two jobs.
Mm,
Um, it isn't it isn't a thing I'd say to most people take on. Um, it's something that I sort of eased into, especially over the years. Like I've been doing this for 7 years, so I've kind of gotten used to the heavy periods of the year. A monthly breakdown is definitely my scheduled. Yeah, yeah, it's yes, definitely mine too. But my year kind of spaces itself out. It gets really busy from April to, I'm gonna say, September, end of September. That's my go time. That's when the
yeah,
conventions are on. That's when I'm printing, publishing, Kickstarters are running.
yeah.
It's just very heavy for me. But outside of that, usually is quite dead. It's between October to um, March comes before April. I had to do the things in my head just mentally just there. That's my downtime. So in those months, I'll do quite a bit of writing. That'll be my heavy lock-in moments.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I kind of just learned how to space it out over the years.
Mm,
Um, and that's again, depending on where you live, where the conventions are, if you attend the
mm,
conventions, how much work you want to produce during the year,
yep.
and how many titles you're working on. I think at the moment I'm on one, two, three, four, five titles at the moment that I'm working
Yeah,
on,
yeah, yeah.
and I'm
Right.
juggling all five of them at the same
Well,
time.
the way you just exhale like for five, it sounds like
Five?
it's
What am I
like
doing?
exhausting to you just thinking about
And,
all the
and
process.
I've got the Kickstarter as well. So like
Oh man.
I'm on A level lunacy. That's where I am.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Because
well, no, well, you're in the right field for that, mate. Because everyone I've met that does comic books has an element of lunacy to it. So
yeah,
you're
because
with the
my
right
partner's
people
like,
there.
she's like, thank God you don't drink or smoke or anything like that, because you'd
Yeah,
just be drinking the house down.
yeah.
But
Then you're married. Yeah, like, oh well, like, that's something that I guess interesting that because like I don't drink anymore these days either. I've got my own story behind that, but I found that when I gave up drinking, um, obviously due to alcoholism and being in recovery, I found that my obsessive nature veered into like creativity in a big hectic way, man. So I guess that's got a lot to do with me. Instead of putting myself in a position of going out with my mates, I would prefer to stay in here and focus that
And
energy
focus on the work. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
man, and on my work and stuff. So again, that's like, but you would sit down and you would like write those emails as a wind down. That would be your wind down and your little pleasant moment, I guess, to like
Yeah,
tack on
and
little bits and pieces.
sometimes, like especially when I'm at work, I don't have my folders and all the information sitting at work on my phone. Like my phone's got a lot
Yeah,
in it, but it doesn't have everything. So,
yeah,
you know, sometimes I can only do those things when I'm at home, especially when I'm running a contract or, anything to do with sort of sending material to a client. Um, so it's nice to go, okay, well, if I've answered, these 4 emails today, that's enough. That's
well,
okay. I
load
can
off
just do
too. You
that.
don't have it. Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
have it playing on your mind and stuff.
yeah. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. And so you can go, okay, well, I've ticked that off my list. What's next? And
mm,
then I like to shuffle things around, find the quicker tasks versus the bigger ones, and then put the bigger
yeah,
ones on like a weekend when I can sit down and do them.
yeah.
I find that helps too, but I guess it's just everyone's sort of learning and coping with that.
Yep,
I have an incredibly supportive partner who helps me out with everything that I do. She's
yep,
wonderful. So
yep.
I'm very, very thankful that I have somebody who does help me with this and who supports me sitting there chained to a desk and just brings me coffee after coffee after coffee so that I can finish the work.
Well,
Those are literally,
that comes back to what we were saying before about like support from family, loved ones.
yeah, yeah.
That's what makes the journey a lot easier too. Like
Yeah,
there's
and I had a deadline with the printer for Your Highness, and we printed it with a velvet matte finish and gold ink on the front cover, so it's actually quite
yeah,
beautiful. And to do that was extremely difficult because I had to pretty much filter the whole thing out to separate into layers and everything like that on Illustrator. And I'd
yeah,
never done that before. So I'm sitting there at 11 o'clock at night, YouTubing how to do this. And she's just like, "Do you need another coffee? Do you need a refill? Like, will you be up till 2 a.m.?" And I'm like, "Yes, yes, I will be." I give her that tired, I'm exhausted look, but you have to get it done because
yeah,
they've got to
man,
go to print and they've
yeah,
only got so many days before they can deliver it to you. So,
yeah.
you
Because
know,
that's the trick too, isn't it? If you
yeah,
got like if you go into a convention and you launch,
yep,
you need stock and everything, and this is new at a convention, you've got to like almost get it meticulously to the out. It's got to be done at this time, and
yep.
oh man, I could imagine the like like for me, I can imagine that. I don't run to any deadlines, man. Like I do my thing creatively for my own peace of mind in my own way. But that's what we do. Is like we have our lanes and our styles, and
Yep.
like and how we create. But one thing I do like about what you were saying about your schedule, and I'm finding this very interesting because you got you boom, boom, boom. You like, I like it. I'm different, but I like what you're doing, and so that slow period of the no conventions when you're sitting down and you're spending your time writing. I'm
Hmm.
thinking if tell me if I'm incorrect, but what I'm picking up is that's the time where you nut out your ideas and you go, Chris, here, da here, and you let them be doing their working, and then you're out working, selling the stuff. Like when it comes into the later end of the
Yeah.
year, is that
Also,
the rotation you're trying
when
for?
I'm doing a graphic novel as well, like I know that that's minimum 6 months.
Yep,
So if I balance that out for, let's say, start work in November,
yep.
it will be done before Supernova in June in Sydney.
And
So,
that's 6 months for writing, or is that six
oh
months
no, that's 6
writing,
months full
artwork,
production.
coloring?
Yep, that's
Man,
everything.
you're a whip cracker, I tell you. Hey,
Yeah,
like, get it,
yeah.
yeah, right.
So I have pretty strict deadlines.
Yeah,
I adhere
yeah,
those to the conventions
yeah,
and when they come along. So
Yep.
like Chris is very much aware of it, poor man.
Yep.
But like I was just talking to my American artist, and we've made a deadline of every 3 months with a month in between break that she delivers the next issue. And
Yep.
it is like clockwork at the moment.
Yep.
So that's been fantastic
Yep.
because people are not waiting a year and a year and a half, which is what we were doing
Mm.
with Fox and Hound. You know, we
Yeah.
were sort of a little up and down with that because of COVID and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to get that consistency back that people will
Yep.
go, oh my God, yes, I know in 3 months the next issue will be out. So they don't forget either, which is good because then the story
Yeah.
keeps going. So,
Well,
but
it
yes,
builds a fandom too, because
yeah, I'm a bit of a whip cracker.
A
So
lot of Australian comic books in past have fallen into the trap of, and I'm not the only person that would say this. It's pretty common. Consistency is what like what you want from anything, and if man, I applaud you on the keeping it together, mate. Because
I I don't know how I do it, but it seems to just happen, and I'm like, thank God, because yeah, like I've found a really good printer now, so I understand their formatting, I understand their
yeah,
deadlines and how long it
yeah,
takes to ship to me and
yeah,
what they need from me as well. So I think things after a lot of trial and error have just finally clicked into place
yeah, yeah,
and really started to get that more consistent timeline going, which
yeah.
is great because it keeps me on track as well. Like I have to deliver my scripts on time and not sit there and dawdle and you know play games instead. I fell down a lot of game holes this year at the beginning of this year. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
um
I guess that happens to a lot of people. It's but that's what it is. With I, look, man, I'm really impressed by that, to be honest with you, because it's
well, thank you.
just keeping it together and things, like and being driven, because drive is look, in comic books, man, like it's hard getting one out, it's
Yeah.
hard getting two out, but to pick yourself up and like have five
Five,
titles.
five. What am I
Like,
doing?
I think
What's
I
the last
lost
count?
my five titles. I don't know how you do it, but like you got five titles that you got underway, and like keeping an eye on multiple artists, making sure your script's fine. I mean, and not only that, but the thing is that people don't give a lot of thought to is, but I'm glad you did, is partners, like in relationships and that. I mean, being a creative person can sometimes isn't the easiest person to live with, I guess, or be around. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
because like you're off. Sometimes you're not.
You get an idea and then you're gone for like 4 hours, and they're like, "Where
Yeah,
did you
man.
go?"
Sometimes you're not present. You're
Yeah,
somewhere else when you should
yeah,
be there. And it's just one of the things of it. And to have a partner that appreciates you for that side of your personality, you're very lucky, and it's a great supportive thing. So a lot of partners don't get the I guess the kudos that they should, like for a lot of creators. And
yeah.
you're
Look,
lucky there, mate. So,
she's been great, and she's been sort of helping with a lot of the design stuff
yeah,
that I sort of browse over and think, oh yeah, it'll look fine. She's like, that's no, that looks like crap. Fix it now. And I'm
yeah,
like, oh okay. Um, so like, like people don't understand when you're running, especially I'm just gonna call it a small business because let's be face it, that's what it
that's
is.
what it is. Yeah,
Um, there's so much more. There's social media. There's
yeah,
branding. There's
yeah,
like posters. I think I've got like 5 different posters now
yeah,
alone just for advertising, and
mm,
this we just created flyers to test at the convention, see how flyers are going, and that went
yeah,
really really well. And she was involved in that, and she's like, I really like that, it's really eye catching. If I was going to come up to the booth, this is something that I would take. So it's good because she likes comics, but she's not heavily into that world, so it's nice to get sort of that different opinion as well.
yeah, yeah,
Sometimes you
yeah,
get a bit blinded
yeah,
being on
yeah,
this side.
yeah. And the other thing is too, like it is good to have a fresh set of eyes that aren't as
Mm.
deeply, because when you can create too, man, like you can get very, I guess, echo chamber into that zone. And I know I can overlook certain things. Like I'm so focused on, like what the artwork's going to look like, this, that, what I'm doing. I do forget about things like little simple things that you just, that somebody else, like, like for example, there are a couple of things that I overlooked with my new comic book that I was working with Peter Wilson to bring it to life. And if it
Yep.
hadn't have been for Peter, like, oi, like, think
Fix
about this.
that. Fix
Oh,
that.
no, I didn't, thanks, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I just, I'll come, whether it's, I'll come back to it or I didn't, like that sort of thing. But lesson. But the one thing I would like to say to you is, like, from what we were talking about earlier to bring it to now is
Mm.
lessons. As you said, 7 years in, you start, like when you were starting, you learned all these lessons, and now you found your printer that you're comfortable with, and you know
Yeah.
how they work, and you know their deadlines and timelines and how to communicate, like, and that's the process of ever learning, isn't it?
Oh yeah, like you have to break eggs in this industry. You can't think that you'll just be able to, the souffle will rise first go. It does not. It
Yeah,
absolutely does not. And I've made some hefty mistakes,
yeah,
like, you know, chowing through money because I thought that, you know, the artist was going to do the job, and it's just gone flying out the window, and the project never even got off the end of the bat. So
yeah,
I think that every mistake has learned something to get to this point, which is
yeah,
good. And I'm still learning. Like I said, I literally just got on TikTok a couple of months ago, and it took me a very long time to figure out that stupid platform. But I think I'm okay with it now. I think we've made our peace and we're okay. Um,
major piece.
I think we're okay. But it's learning how to market and merchandise was a
Yeah,
huge problem. I don't have any economics training whatsoever, and then
this is
having
another
to balance
phase.
your
This is another.
finances and
This is another
yeah,
process for people, like, like that you've got to learn in it too when you come into, like, your self-publishing and getting yourself around and
hmm
things like that too, because it is like, regardless of how many comic books you sell, I mean, it's probably smart to look at things as a small business. You know what I mean? You'd rather be making a profit, like, even if it's only a little one, than a loss. Like, I
yeah.
mean, that's the,
As long as you can break even, that's a win.
yeah, yeah,
Like if you can, I think I made like $50 profit on my Melbourne trip, but that doesn't that that doesn't mean anything to me over the connections and the
yeah,
um, talking to people and just
yeah,
getting out there and getting the name of the books out there. That was worth more than that
yeah,
$50 profit ever could
yeah,
be.
yeah. Well,
And
it's experience too, mate. Like, and
absolutely, absolutely. And
mhm.
I'd never been to Melbourne, so it was like, okay, cool. I need to sort of figure out what Melbourne people like. Now I know that research is
Well,
invaluable.
that was a
You know,
cool thing. You were so excited when we were talking, like, at the
I
start of the show
love
about,
horror.
I
I
love
love
horror.
writing
No,
horror.
don't.
Yeah.
Like, what's weird is getting back to that point too. Is this, I'm obviously doing a few chinwags now and meeting people myself. Like, it is amazing how many different, like, let's break, like, cities, metropolitan areas that house these conventions. Certain comics will sell better in different cities than others. Like, something may be
Absolutely.
a really big seller in Sydney, but you come to Brisbane and no one wants a bar of it.
Fox and
But,
Hound. That
and
is
then
my
you're like, what?
prime example.
What's
Sydney,
that?
Fox
Mhm.
and Hound does so well
Yeah,
in Sydney. They
yeah,
love it. You go to Brisbane, it
yeah,
is the devil's tool. Do not touch that comic book. I had a poster
yeah,
when I first started of the two girls, and it wasn't too spicy, but it was just them sitting in the bathtub, but from
mm,
the side angle. So all you saw was
yeah,
their heads basically.
yeah,
And they had a rubber ducky. It was kind of cute. That poster got me so much hate for the weekend. I had so many people sneering at me, making comments, going, "How dare you put that up?" Blah 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 blah. The end
okay,
of the convention, I had one guy come back and go, "Do you have posters of that?" And I said, "No, I've only got the banner." And he goes, "How much do you want for that banner?" I said, I don't know. And he's just like, "I'm going to buy it off you. I'm going to put that in my man cave." And I was like, "Okay." So, you think something will work and then it doesn't, but then it kind of does.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I've definitely tailored my stuff. I take less Fox and Hound when I go to Brisbane,
Yep.
more of the fantasy. Now, if I go to Melbourne again next year, I'll be taking a
horror.
lot of my dark horror stuff.
Yep.
I'll probably again take less of the comedy, and then I'll probably have comedy for more Sydney, and then just kind of switch it up, just kind of move things around and see what works. But
Yeah, yeah.
even
Well, you
even
thought-
displays, like even displays at my stall have changed. I put up a Instagram post, what was it, about 3 months ago now, I think,
Mm.
and it was showing the displays through the years, and you can see just how the display has completely revamped itself almost
Yeah.
every time I've done a convention,
Yeah.
which is great. It's like almost seeing a time lapse, It kind of looked really, really cool. So
That's part of the enjoyment of it, man, and like the
yep.
process. I tend to find like, like obviously people with far greater marketing skills than myself have noticed these things as well, but done the numbers, like based on other sales and things. You found your way there through just observation and seeing your numbers and things and making like, organic movements to tailoring, like your strategies of sales and things. I Yeah, I wonder why people feel the need sometimes to like sneer and um, you know, again, I'm just a believer that art and creativity is subjective, man. You know what I mean? Like
I don't
if you
think
like,
I've ever gone to a convention and looked at something and gone, "Oh," like
mm,
even if it's not particularly to my taste,
mm,
I don't know, it's just not within my nature to just go, "Oh, what the hell is
mm,
that?" It's
yeah,
more just like, "What?" Like
yeah,
I'm almost confused more than anything.
yeah,
But yeah, definitely, yeah, Brisbane was a bit of a mixed bag when I went up there.
yeah,
But again, learning experience.
yeah,
Wouldn't
yeah,
have known if I didn't go. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
No,
that's
I get you. It's yeah, look, I'm just very much a person that believes that Brisbane is a mixed bag. Yeah,
Phil's like, yes, we are crazy up here.
yeah, I've spent plenty of time in Brisbane myself. But yeah, like I just find art and creativity subjective, mate. And it's just to me, it's a case of I just appreciate anyone putting the effort into it because like with all the chinwags and seeing and talking to like yourself and other people and the effort and the time and the love and the dedication like that goes into this stuff, man. You know what I mean? Like it's not just a case of you know when's the next comic book out, that sort of. Sometimes people are going through shit, mate. You know what I mean too, and you hear their stories and you
Yeah.
learn and stuff, and like, yeah, man, it's a battle. That's why it's at the start of the show, like I wanted to give a huge shout out even over Battle for Bustle to Stu Thornton,
Mhm.
mate.
Mhm.
With, congratulating getting out Outlaw issue 1 because had not meaning to put him in front of you, Nicole, but just in my mind, just for the
No, no, no.
second.
It's more like just congratulating somebody for doing what they need
Mate,
to do. Like,
100%.
yeah,
You know,
it's hard enough just to even get the book done, let alone get it out there. There are some new horror cons in Sydney. Yes, 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 I'm gonna have to go to those.
collectibles. We should definitely need to bring that back up, sis. Let's finish the end of Sean Shay's. Um, Definitely need to bring more horror comics into them because it struggles at the Comic Cons.
It
There you go.
does. It does
There you go.
struggle, but I'm gonna
Thank
actually
you, Shane.
I'm gonna end up writing quite a bit of horror. Actually, I've got a few horror sitting there written. Just yeah. they're quite brutal, so I think that'll be fun. I just popped on your website and thought,
Jeffrey.
thank
There you
you.
go. See,
Fox and Hound
Jeffrey.
is my babies are good. I love my girls. I love writing my girls. I love working on the girls. I'm not going to stop anytime soon. So, Wishbone have yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard in some of the other countries where you don't get the convention. Well, it's even hard in our country. We actually don't have as many. Like my friends over in America, I talk to them quite regularly, and they're like, "Well, I have a convention like twice a month." I'm like, "What? You have a what
I
now?"
know. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no thanks. I got my little time in my year, and that's about it for me. Thank you.
Yeah, and but that twice, like a month too, is probably all within, a couple of 100 kilometers, man. Like
Yes.
of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're
Like
very, very close.
the logistical nature of,
Yeah.
getting to every convention, and sometimes, and too, like AusCon in Adelaide and Perth will be on one weekend from another, but then the Melbourne and Sydney one will be on, like a month later, like one weekend after the other. So you got to get back and make sure you got stock. And then there's another convention on, like in Adelaide, and you got to make. I get there, and it's like
Literally,
flights and logistics and the
I
weights
think.
of, like, as we found
Oh,
out,
the weight
the weights of the comic books,
that
take
scared
this
the
in the
crap
banners,
out
and
of
it's like,
me.
yeah, it's
No,
not
I
like you
think
can just jump in like in your
no,
four-wheel drive or your
no.
wagon and like, I'm going out for the weekend. It's like,
From
man,
from April to September, it is every 3 weeks I have a convention. Every 3 weeks. So
yeah,
it
yeah,
is a massive block. And that's
yeah,
not including the smaller ones in between. Like I
yeah,
didn't do those this year, and I've got to put them on the list for next year. So it'll be
yeah,
about 6 conventions by the time I'm done next year, which is going to be quite hefty. But I'm excited because I like doing the conventions. So
yeah, yeah. Well, you're chatty, that's a good
I
thing,
am.
isn't
I'm very
it?
chatty.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the thing too, man. Like, again, like, that's part of the, I guess, the double-edged sword of um, doing comic books and stuff too. Is there's not just, like, the creating, there's not just the marketing and the logistics. Like, we're going for many swords here when now that we're breaking it down. You know what I
Like I
mean?
said, I should put them all. I should put the list of things that I do on the back of my shirt now. And when people go, "Oh, what do you do?" I can just turn around and be like, "Read the back."
Yeah, yeah.
Like
This
there's
will
just
fill
so
you in.
many. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is everything that I do. And my
yeah,
friend actually, who was tabling next to me at Metrocon, actually told me that idea. So, I'm pretty sure I will do it before the next convention as a gag. But
yeah. Oh man, like, because what else you got? Like, and we'll get into it in a little while, but like, so you're chatting to people, you're talking, you're trying to, you're maintaining your enthusiasm, because your enthusiasm vibes what you're doing. You know what I mean?
mhm.
So if you come away from a good, like, gig, let's call it, like, you're feeling good, you want to get back into work, but you've got another job as well, so you got to try and balance your energies there. Like, as
Yep,
you were saying, you can keep things going. There's a
bumping out
lot of
is
balance.
fun for
Bumping
that.
is fun for that. Doing inventory and packing for an easy bump in next week, while trying
Ah.
building wanting you out is its own challenge.
I am all about the setup and pack up. I can pack up my table in under 10
Mm.
minutes. Like it is just I'm gone. People are like, "How did you do that?" And I'm just like, "It is all in the suitcase. Don't look at the suitcase. Look at me, and I'm out of here." You know?
Look at me.
Look at me. I'm gone. Goodbye. I will
Yeah,
see
yeah,
you tomorrow. Leave me alone.
yeah.
And I actually did Sydney Supernova without coffee on the Saturday, and I regretted it immediately. I was so
Oh,
dead. And then I had one on the Sunday, and everyone's like, "Oh God, you're a totally different person." And I'm like, I'm aware of this. I'm
yeah, right.
absolutely aware of this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so yeah, I like I said, I'm a master at getting my stuff there, putting it up in like under 20 minutes, having everything set up, and then just being like, okay, I'm done. Let me out of here. I'm good. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I suppose you spent a lot of time there when it's on, so like you just want to get out and have a little bit of time to yourself to like charge
Yeah,
up and.
I feel like bumping in on the day before is a lot easier.
Mm,
There's less people around,
yeah,
there's less sort of interference. You can just go and set up, and you don't have that push for time to be ready by when the convention opens.
yeah,
And then some conventions open at 9, some of them open at 10, so it just depends. And then depending on how far you live away from that convention,
yeah,
you
true.
don't want to be going at 7 a.m. in the morning to set up. You want to kind of have your sleep in and then get up, get ready, and go. So it's just easier to do it the day before, which is what I did at Metrocon.
Yeah,
Actually, I had a great time doing that. And then, you go around, you chat with a bunch of people who are also setting up. You catch up with the people you haven't seen in like half a year, and then, you can go home and relax. And then next day, actually go and do what you need to do. And you're also not lugging everything on the day either. You actually,
yeah.
you want to look presentable, especially with me. I got to do my hair and makeup and everything. And like, I don't want to be
So,
lugging like
okay,
30
speaking
kilos
of
of books.
that, you go in a cosplay extravagant type fashion because you said you're a cosplayer
No,
before. So do you still keep some of that flair?
God,
Or
no, 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 no.
Mm,
I just go in what I know I can stand in for 8 hours. Because you are standing there for 8 hours, and you got to be
yeah, yeah,
comfortable.
yeah, for sure.
I feel bad for those people who do cosplay at their stalls because they look so uncomfortable, and I'm just
Mm,
like that doesn't look like fun, but for them it is. But yeah, no, I go in like I've got my own branded shirt, so I'm always in that shirt, and then I
mm,
just change up the pants and shoes and
yeah,
just something that I know I can stand in for 8 hours because it's going to be a long time. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I learned that the first few times when I was tabling to wear something comfy. Because the
Mm,
first time I think I did wear costumes the first few times that I tabled, and I was so uncomfortable. It's just
mm.
so uncomfortable, and I was like, I don't want to do that ever again. So
I know we come down to the environment of the venue too. Like where
yeah,
we're
and
at.
then sometimes it's like it's hot in there, sometimes it's cold.
Yeah,
So you've got to sort of adjust to that environment and
yeah, for
see
sure.
what's going to happen with that. But yeah, and it depends on what time of the year it is and everything like that too.
Mm,
So I yeah, I just wear comfy now. I've learned my hard way. But I've always had the purple hair, so most people recognize me via the hair. So
yeah.
that's always a constant that I sort of have
So
now.
that's the staple, purple hair.
It is the staple. It has been
Yep,
every
yep,
color under the sun over the years,
yep.
except for yellow.
Oh yeah.
I never dye it yellow because it ends up just washing out and looking like pee. So it's
Fair
not
enough.
a good look. It's not a good
Well,
look.
yeah, I had that problem as well, mate. Like I
Yeah,
can see.
it's
Well,
it's not
yeah,
great. So, but I've had it literally every other color. Um, I was red and black for a very long time, but
yep.
I just default to the purple now. I just love it. And most people recognize it, so I'm like, it's kind of a staple now. I don't think I'll ever get rid of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Much to my mother's upset.
Oh,
I had normal hair color while my sister was getting married for that specific reason. And then literally the week after she got married, I went and dyed it purple again. And my mother was just like, "But why? You look so pretty." And I'm just like, "No. No. Didn't feel like me. I feel better now. I'm fine
yeah,
now."
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, they got the rare occurrence. I think it was of 6 months with me with normal hair, and they were taking a million photos. They're like, "We have to document this because it'll
Well,
never
they've
happen
got. I was
again."
gonna say they've got the
Like
evidence.
it'll
It's
never
not like.
happen again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Oh, all the evidence is there, mum. Like what
yes,
can
it
you do?
was
So,
normal for a while, Mum. I swear to God.
yeah,
So,
yeah. No, that's cool,
but
man. I like the
yeah,
fact that you're so organized, man. It's I like the fact that you're super productive. And like the other thing that we'll get into is not only are you have two jobs, have a partner, have family, have your cat that you had to lock out of the room
I
today because
did.
he was
Usually
going to
he is
sit
in
on,
here
you know.
jumping all over everything,
Mhm,
but he
mhm.
was very naughty and he actually jumped up on the thing behind me and he has knocked over those figurines one too many times, so he got chased
No,
out.
there's going to be an arm or a leg missing, not off the cat, but off those figurines.
Oh, don't worry. There has been many a time I have found those figurines like lying on the floor. Like, when did he do that?
Yeah,
When did he get in here? So,
yeah.
but yes,
my cat's weird because it's speaking of cats, I've got fish obviously as well. I like animals, so I have fish tanks, and I was cleaning my 3-foot fish tank, which was inside like the other day, and I had the glass off obviously, and it's open, and doing my thing, changing waters and all that, and then I was just like drifting away and listening to tunes, and I heard like splashing water, and I was like, what is that? And I turned around, and Charlie is like standing, like balancing on the glass like this with one arm like down to like, and she's like pulling out the fish, man, trying to get to, man, flicking water everywhere, man. And I thought, like, haven't seen her all day. She's snoozing, you know what I mean? Like, but then for that 1 minute, there's just chaos and fish, and I'm rescuing fish, and taps are going, and like there's the danger of buckets, it's
Yep.
the fun of animals, man, But so let's get back to enough of animals for a sec. Let's get back to see, I can diverge in any different direction.
That's very true. We'll probably have to make this the last one of the night. It's 9:30 already.
Yeah, that's cool. Now we're getting to this. You're also live streaming now, not just tonight, but you also on the ComX network, I see, has Friday night. So
yes.
how you feeling about that, mate? Stepping into like live streaming, presenting. Well,
I'm pretty happy. Look, I'm pretty happy about it, and we're talking about Batwoman, which I convinced Sizzle to do because it's my favorite. Yeah. So Chris and I will be hosting that, which we're extremely ecstatic to do, because once you get the two of us chatting, we just don't shut up. So I think it'll be actually really, really funny. If anybody has seen us in real life together, it is, I'm just gonna call it just chaotic, hilarious mess, because when we start, it just doesn't stop. Like, we've done panels together and stuff like that, and talking, and we're like talking about stuff, and then all of a sudden we stop and we're looking at each other and we're like, what was the name of that thing? I don't remember. Do you remember? No, I don't remember. Okay, we'll come back to that. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cute, and he's done the best little logo for it. I absolutely love it. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see everybody draw my favorite character. So
yeah, it's cool. Yeah. No, mate, I reckon it's going to be really good. And yeah, this evening I've enjoyed meeting you tonight, Nicole.
Oh, thank you. I have enjoyed my time immensely.
No, thank you, mate. Thank you for being part of the Chinwag family. And I know you're a busy lady, so I won't keep you too much later, because your shift work and your comic book.
I'm literally probably
marketing guru.
I'm gonna go make my lunch for work and then go to sleep. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm so boring right now.
All right, that's all right. Well, I won't keep you too much longer. So I'll bring the show to a bit of a close for us. And Nicole, before I let you sit back and let me end the show, where can we find your stuff, mate? Where's your websites, your Instagrams, Facebook?
Yep, everything. So everything is under NS Kane Comics. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We've got our website as well. Just type in NS Kane Comics into Google and it'll bring it up straight away. That's where you can find all my work. You can find all my books if you want to purchase anything. We do have digital books on Global ComX as well. That's our new site. So you can just type in, again, NS Kane, and it'll bring up all of our titles.
There you go. It's like you. I think that's very cool. Shionche, last comment for the night. Haha.
I didn't realize you were running it. Yes, I will be on there, so I will talk to you then.
There you go. So Nicole, up and running this Friday night at 8:30, I believe, is the first one. So buy mac and cheese. Thank you, Red. And don't forget that across all of ComX, there's plenty of shows for you to watch. Monday, Recent Reads, Tuesday, Chinwag's, Wednesday, AusComX show, which tomorrow evening, myself and Peter Wilson will be guests on, promoting the new Battle for Bustle comic book, which is out now at the ComX shop. And don't forget that if you buy that or any of the comic books, Outlaw anything, on the ComX shop, you'll receive digitally issues 1 through 4 of Battle for Bustle. So get on to that. Thank you for everyone that watches the show. Thank you for everyone that supports Chinwag. Thank you for everyone that supports ComX, the network. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe ComX across YouTube, Facebook, anywhere you can find it, because it helps the algorithm. It stretches out, it reaches more people, and it makes everything healthy for the community, and more people get involved. And that's a beautiful thing, because that's what we love. On another note, look after your brothers and your sisters. Mental health is a huge of importance to creatives. And at the end of the show, it's just something that Shane and I like to have. If you know someone that's in trouble, if you know someone that needs assistance, big or small, there's numbers that you can reach, Lifeline, varying other numbers. I have had to ring them in the past, so don't feel embarrassed. They were very helpful to me in dark times, and I promote everything that they do, and so does Shane and ComX. Other than that, again, thank you tonight. Thank you for Nicole Kane. I wish you every success, mate, with everything in the future. I certainly hope I get to see you again and have another Chinwag. And
Totally.
yeah, it'd be great to, and thank you for joining the family, and I look forward to that. So, all right, remember, Chinwag is and always will be made with love. Thank you for watching, and community is unity. Good evening. See you next Tuesday. Bye.
This show is sponsored by the ComX shop. Check out over to comx.shop to pick up a variety of Australian comics from multiple creators and publishers, all for one flat postage rate. We hope you enjoyed the show.